Hey, you fucks. Thanks for, checking out the videos, showing a little bit of support. How about you take it to the next level and show us some love over there on Patreon, huh? Huh? Huh?
Oh, yeah. That's the good stuff. You know, before I started this rant today, I was going on YouTube and looking at clips of the movie. Even though I have a copy of the movie, I went on YouTube and looked at the clips of the movie because I wanted to hear what people were saying about the scenes that I like in the movie. And there was this one quote. I mean, there's been so many good comments of what people think about this movie and the experience they went through with this movie. But like one of my favorite comments I saw was like, this story is great because it talks about the importance of honor, redemption, and humbleness. And it's so funny because it's like every year, not just like hundreds, but probably like thousands of movies come out probably like every year, right? And I guess maybe hundreds of A movies or A studio movies come out or whatever every year, but um, it's right now it's like 2025, right? While I'm making this, I know you like one of the big things is you never say the exact date of when you made a video because you're like putting a timestamp on it or something, right? But this movie came out in 2003. I'm so used to saying like 2020 something, right? But yeah, 2003. So 22 years ago, this movie came out, and that is just that's nuts. That's fucking crazy. That this movie, like Ken Watanabe was 43 when this movie came out, or when he filmed it or whatever. And then I don't know how old Tom Cruise was, but it's just it's weird how like there's movies in our life that like are really effective that stay with us a lot. Like it's not just a piece of entertainment. It was like an experience, like it's not just like a story that someone's telling you. It's like you feel something through that, right? And I don't know, I just like there's not a lot of movies where I can watch it and say that it was perfect. There's a lot of movies that I like, but there's not a lot of movies that I can say are perfect. And it's like for example, like Highlander. Highlander has some cheesiness, but the guy who made the first Highlander movie, he originally did music videos before he made that movie. And so like the movie is very very artistic, like the lighting, the color, the camera work, like it's very very intentional, like the way that they shoot everything. And like it's funny because like I don't know any of the technical terms, so like if you any of you guys are like film maker or film students or whatever, maybe you can correct me on the terminology or whatever, right? But what do they call it, like casing or something, like when you're thinking of the scene and you're thinking about how you're going to shoot the scene. Like so much work and detail went into this, and it's beautiful. Such a beautiful fucking movie. But anyway, we're gonna get into that today for today's rant. It's so funny, I'm having to redo this, but let me do my shout out and then we'll get into the story about this. So yeah, hey everybody, it's the 4 minute point here. I just wanted to do some self promo because even though we're talking about like a very a very close to my heart topic today, we still got to make money. We got to shout out this stuff. So if you guys ever wanted to learn Japanese and experience The Last Samurai without subtitles like I do, then feel free to go over to patreon.com/TKOSam. I've got tons of different bonus content over there. Even if you don't want to learn Japanese, I do things where I send you comic books or like Japanese books in the mail. I've got a blogs, like a hidden secret blog over there. I've got behind the scenes footage. All that cool stuff over there on patreon.com/TKOSam. And plus, you get your name at the end of the video. Isn't that cool? But yeah, you've got that. And then also, what else? So you have that. And then, yeah, big shout out to everybody who is a YouTube member, who drops a super thanks or a super chat in the fucking, like, during the live streams or during the premieres or in the comments section. I really do appreciate you guys so much for that. You guys are so badass. Thank you so much for that shit. And yeah, if you guys are if you are part of if you become a member, I'm gonna start putting the YouTube members at the end of this video too, because there are quite a few of you. And hopefully, like, it's so funny, like on Patreon the lowest thing I think is like $1 that you can sign up for, but you'll still get your name in the credits after that. So even with the YouTube members, you'll still get your name in the credits after that. So yeah. And speaking of awesome super chats, super chat member of the week shout out, boom. Yes. Big shout out to you, sir. Thank you very much for your service. Papa Tico and Uncle Jim, thank you for your service. Hell yeah, dude. And yeah, muchos Garcias por flavor, guys. And yeah, anyway, I don't make any money off of Google AdSense, so every dollar that you guys throw at me helps ensure that I still keep pumping out this hot, sexy content for you guys. And yeah, it's all good, and it is, ma'am. So, yeah, and also, I guess question of the day is, have you ever watched The Last Samurai? What are your thoughts on it? And, yeah, if you haven't watched it recently, fucking go watch it. Stream it, torrent it, I don't give a fuck. Just watch it and go through that experience. But anyway, yeah, and if you guys don't want to donate, don't forget to smash the like button and hit the subscribe button, etc. Follow me on my socials. I'm pretty active on Twitter. And join the Discord. We've got such an awesome community of hot dudes and dudettes over on that Discord. And appreciate you guys very sexually. But anyway, yeah, let's get back into the movie and back into talking about this. So, yeah, what was it? I was going to talk about a story. Oh, yeah, so I actually recorded about 30 minutes of this rant last week, but like my neighbor, I guess, was they were doing construction. I guess my neighbor moved out and they were reforming it. She was like a really old lady, and so they like reformed the whole apartment, and they were tearing away all this old shit, and like her it was really old. Like the lady, she had not she had just been living in there, and it was like it hadn't changed in like 30 years. It was super old school. Like the flooring and the walls were all old, the ceiling was all old, and these two guys were just in there just beating the shit out of the apartment. It was pretty funny. But yeah, I've worked construction jobs or like jobs like that before, and like I know what it's like dealing with assholes who are like, hey, you're being loud, and it's like, we got permission, like, if you don't like it, fuck off. They didn't tell me or anybody else that they were redoing that in the apartment, which would have been nice, but I don't care. But anyway, yeah, I always drink green tea in the morning, and so I had these bottles of green tea, so I gave it to them, and I was like, here you go, enjoy. I gave them some American candy too, and yeah, it's just like it was just being nice. But anyway, I was trying to record this Last Samurai rant while they were breaking up the fucking apartment. So, in the original recording, you just hear rear, rear, bump, 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 rear, rear. It's like, and so yeah, I'm trying to talk about this movie that kind of embodies peacefulness and harmony, and all you're hearing is like bump, 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 like just. Yeah, so I had to redo the recording for this, which is fine, though, because I don't want to sound too distracted when I'm making this, It's like, because, I mean, like, there's other rants where I just, I'm kind of talking off cuff, and I'm not really it's not that I'm not super invested into it, but it's like I've been putting off recording this for a week because I'm like, okay, I have an hour to talk about this. Is that enough time? Like, I don't even know if that's enough time for this. You know, like, what if I, like, I need to structure this properly, and I need to talk, and I'm like, yeah, I'll, I didn't even, usually I YouTube search this stuff beforehand, but, I didn't YouTube search it to see if people have made video essays about this. Like, usually when you type in The Last Samurai, it just comes up with all the clips from the movie. So, I'm curious if anybody made video essays on this. I'd love to, like, do a deep dive into this. Like my buddy Jim. I went out drinking with my buddy Jim last night because our friend Destiny's in town, and not Destiny, not that fucking Destiny FOMO, the good one, the hot chick, and it was funny because we're all talking, and what was it? We were talking about like viewers and stuff that are like annoying or whatever, and then we were talking about just regular viewers, and I brought up that like the day before somebody asked me like how like autistic am I when it comes to like movie details and knowing stuff, like basically like hyper geek fandom. And I was like, well, like for the things that I like, I know like certain details or whatever, but like I don't deep dive into it as much as like my buddy Jim. And then like at that like at the meetup with Jim, we're talking about Western movie. Well, we were talking about Gene Hackman, how Gene Hackman died, and his wife is Japanese, and then we were talking about Gene Hackman, and then it's like, oh yeah, like, it's like he died at 92. He lived a good life, he lived a long life. And then it's like, and then we were talking about Gene Hackman movies that we like, and then I was like, oh yeah, Unforgiven. That was the last movie I saw him in, and that movie kicks ass. And then Jim's like, you ever see The Quick and the Dead or something? And I'm like, I know the movie. Leonardo DiCaprio, right? And Russell Crowe and Gene Hackman. I haven't watched the movie. I've only seen clips of it. And then Jim went into full detail about the story, the characters, like how many times one character got shot. He talked about all the supporting cast and everything. Like, Jim really knew all this stuff, and like, but he wasn't like a weirdo about it. Like, he was just talking as if like some guys know sports stats right off the top of their head because they're really interested in that, and Jim knows a lot about movies and like music and stuff. So like if it was in school and some guy was like, did you know that, but like that would be annoying. But my buddy Jim's just like, hey, did you know that it's like, yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio was he played the role of Gene Hackman's son in that movie, and I don't know, he tells it in such a fun way that it's not annoying, and it's cool to see that he has all this knowledge about this stuff that he really likes and cares about, right? And for me, there's not a lot of things that I know, like, I really do deep dives about stuff on, right? But like The Last Samurai is one of those movies where it's like, yeah, I did mind, like, as soon as this movie came up, or like after I finished watching the movie, I went on Wikipedia and I just read the shit out of everything, right? Like, I learned about the director, learned about where they filmed it, learned about like the process of how it became like a screenplay all the way to, becoming a movie. Like Tom Cruise's like training he did for the movie, like all this stuff, and it was really, I don't know, it's like, it's fun when you find something like that and you just do a deep dive on it. It's cool, it's fun, right? And I actually collected a lot of like YouTube comments from the comment sections on the different movie clips about this and stuff too, and I'm gonna talk about those later on in this rant too. But just off the top of my head, like, I wanted to talk about like all these different things that I really liked about the movie. And it's funny because I'm pretty sure I wrote down the notes somewhere in my journal, but I don't remember where I wrote them. Usually I have a page for just like stuff to write about rants, and but I don't think I wrote any of those notes in that section. So yeah, but either way, I mean, this is one of those things where it's just like, I know what I want to talk about. I just don't know what structure or like, what sequence or whatever I want to talk about this in. So I guess I just kind of got to spitball and go off cuff. Like the movie's from 2003, but they made like the screenplay like 10 or 20 years beforehand, and it had gone through like multiple hands of people to before they finally decided to go with before they decided to actually make it. And the cool thing is like I didn't know that this movie was mostly filmed in New Zealand, like because it's super hard to film this stuff in Japan. There's not a lot of space. There's a lot of permits and stuff, and it's tough. So like they found this like isolated countryside area of New Zealand where they basically built up this Japanese town just for the movie, and like they rented it out pretty much, and then they just built up that Japanese village. It was cool, you know. It's pretty fucking badass that they were able to do that, right? And anyway, yeah. So it's just like so for all of you guys who are listening to this that maybe you haven't watched Last Samurai or you don't give a shit, and you're like it's okay, Dad, you can explain it. Well, yeah, let me go into the story. What is the story of Last Samurai? And let me get some coffee before I do this. Coffee, why? Coffee, why? Ugh. That's some good cough. So anyway, there's a guy named Nathan Algarin, and it's funny because I always just called the character Tom Cruise up until now, but the character doesn't have a name. Nathan Algarin, and he is a war veteran, and specifically it's like during the time of like Custard. You know, Custard's Last Stand, a very famous general who just suicide rushed his enemies and shit. And anyway, Mr. Algarin, I'll just call him Algarin because that's what they call him throughout the movie. Algarin is like, he's got horrible PTSD because he was like a linguist. His role in the army was to learn about the enemy, like the Native Americans that they were fighting, and so he would learn their languages, learn their customs, get to know more about them when they were fighting for later. But one of his last missions with the army is that his commander, or whatever you call it, the guy above him, gets the call that they have to go and kill the bad guys in this town. But when they get to the town, there's no bad guys. It's just women and children and like old people. And his commander's like, hey, man, I got my orders. You know, they said wipe out the town. And so Algarin is like, don't do this, don't do it. No one's listening to him. And then they're like, you do this or else, like, you know, we're going to shoot you kind of thing. So he just starts murdering these people that he's grown to know and learn their ways and stuff and appreciate and respect them. And he's torn up about it, you know? Like, he was this guy who was just a regular soldier, and he was kind of lost, and he didn't have purpose, and then he finds purpose in learning about other cultures and learning about these people that are misunderstood by the majority of society, right? And then he's forced to kill them. So it breaks him. It breaks him as a man, and ever since then, he's not tried to kill himself, but he's welcomed death, you know? Like, he's never fought against that. And, like, what's the saying? Like, the most dangerous man is the man who does not fear death, right? And, yeah, so this guy, like, he basically, after the war, I guess there's not that many survivors from his platoon or something, and so he goes on the road as this guy who's a spokesperson, and he uses his status as a quote-unquote war veteran you know, and, like, his whole... like, everyone thinks he's this badass because of so many people getting killed, but, you know, fake news, right? Like, they didn't kill any bad guys. It was mostly women and children, but they just say it's bad guys, right? And stuff. And so he's got this, like, fake cool status of, like, yeah, man, you're a fucking warrior, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you know, he's got the heart of a warrior, you know, but he's not... Maybe he's killed people before, but, like, the people that, like, the deaths that affected him the most were the people that were innocent, right? That he was forced to kill. And anyway, so he's become an alcoholic, and he gets approached by that like one of the guys that was in the platoon with him or whatever, and he's like, hey, I got somebody to meet you, like come and do this. And so Tom Cruise is like, yeah, fuck it, I'm drunk, whatever. And so he goes and meets, and it's the commander, the guy who fucking forced him to kill all those people. And he's like, hey, you know, these Japanese people, the Japanese army wants us to train them in the way of the white man, and they're gonna pay you like a whole month's salary in 1 week, you know, for like 3 months straight. You're gonna be like, you can do this one job and then you don't ever have to work again. And I guess the commander is like, I never understood why. They don't really describe it in the movie, but apparently like Algarin is more popular than his commander, who was in charge of the group. So like the catch is that they're only gonna hire the commander to teach the Japanese army how to fight unless Algarin comes with him. And it's like, yeah, it's cool. Like they get it, right? Like, yeah, that's okay. So so Algarin's Scottish buddy, Billy McConnell or whatever his name is, they get him. They agree and they go over to Japan and they start training these young dudes who are just basically like cannon fodder. They're like, these guys don't know how to fight or whatever, but they just want a paycheck, steady, you know, 3 meals a day, and that's what they get with that stuff. So so anyway, they start doing that, and that's cool or whatever. And yeah, and they're and so yeah, he starts training the guys, and you know, like then this like the rebels, the Japanese rebels that have been causing trouble, which is the reason why the Western style army was being raised, they attacked Okamura's railroad. And Okamura is this like punk ass, bitch ass, rich Japanese dude who's taking advantage of the young emperor not having a daddy or having a male mentor. And Okamura is just using the emperor as a way to get himself richer and basically impose his values on the emperor and everything, and try to make Japan more westernized because he doesn't like Japan. And the backstory of Okamura is that like he was like a poor merchant, and he's like basically gone from zero to being super rich. And the way he did it was like innovating Japan with new Western shit. So he's incentivized to change Japan, right? And anyway, so Okamura's being a piece of shit, right? And but he's like, I want you guys to go attack Katsumoto. Katsumoto's the name of the rebellion leader. And he's like, I want you to go fuck up Katsumoto. He fucked up my railroad. Like, you know, we were supposed to get stuff, and now we can't get it because he sabotaged the fucking railroad. So go kick his ass. And Algarin's like, dude, your soldiers are not ready. They're not ready to fight. And then Okamura's like, I don't give a shit. Like, fucking go do it. And anyway, they go and fight the Japanese rebels. It turns out really bad, that they're way more prepared for fighting and everything. And most of the guys die or they run away. Algarin's Scottish buddy gets killed. And Algarin, you know, he gets cornered and he fucks up a bunch of people. And then finally the one guy who killed his friend comes over and he's like, I'm going to kill this white boy too. And then Algarin takes the spear. I don't know if it's the spear that killed his friend, but he takes the spear and he stabs the samurai that killed his friend. He gets revenge, and he's about to get killed by all the rest of the samurai. And then Katsumoto tells everyone to stop. And he's like, I need to learn about my enemy. And like that's when you're like, oh shit, Katsumoto is like Algarin. Like they're both students of the world, and they're both like very mindful and smart, like soldiers. Like they know that you can't just win with like strength and brawn. You got to think and have strategy and have more understanding and, you know, peaceful calmness when it comes to making like decision making, right? So they're very similar, but you know, Algarin is this guy who's broken, who's had bad shit happen to him, and he's just kind of going with the flow with life. And meanwhile, Katsumoto, even though they're similar, like he's got his own group of Japanese people that are that he's in charge of. And Katsumoto is he doesn't like how Japan is like very hyper like speed moving for when it comes to hyper evolving into this Western society. And and he's like, we're losing a lot of our Japaneseness, and you're like, you made samurai not be a legal class anymore. Like, what the fuck? Like, like, this is bullshit. Come on, dude. And anyway, yeah, so it's just like you kind of understand and you sympathize with Katsumoto's stance and why he's doing this thing. And because we learn about this because he basically takes Algarin as a hostage. He's like, I could kill you, but I want to learn more about my enemy. And for some reason, I don't think you're really that bad a guy, even though you killed one of my best dudes. And like, I see something in you that I see in me, and so I'm gonna take you back to my village. And it's so cold during winter that you're not gonna be able to escape, even if you want. Like, if you could try to escape, but you'll die. It's too fucking harsh and the cold. And so so he like nurses Algarin back to health, and then he's stuck in the village. And when he's in the village, Algarin, he starts to learn more. Like, he's forced to get sober, and like, he was drinking all the time to stop the nightmares of what he had done in the past, when he killed all those people. And so he finally is forced to like go cold turkey and sober up. And it's really interesting, like this interesting plot point of the story, because the guy who he killed was Katsumoto's brother-in-law. And so Katsumoto forces his brother-in-law's wife, aka his sister, he forces his sister to nurse to health the guy that killed her husband. And throughout the movie, they don't go into detail about if she really loved him or not. Like, it seems like it was more of a marriage of like Games of Thronesy, kind of like a transactional marriage versus like a marriage out of love. And so it's like she's still angry, and that she's like, what the fuck? Why do I have to take care of the guy who murdered the father of my children? And why do I have to keep him in my house? And Katsumoto's just like, this is going to make you stronger. I don't know how, but it's like, this is the way it's got to be. But I know in the end it will make you stronger. And anyway, yeah, like Algarin, he starts like, going around the village and learning all this stuff. And he's so impressed by the Japanese people, he's like, he sees them, and like the warriors are practicing, fighting. Like the farmers are making the food, the women are doing their women stuff or whatever. And he slowly starts to learn more and more about these people that he was fighting against. And like, it's funny because like they, like, again, like, there's such subtleties in this movie when it comes to the storytelling. And it's like, while he's so resistant, he's still wearing his Western uniform, his fighting uniform or whatever, right? And but then finally he starts wearing the Japanese clothes and like accepting that he can't escape. And then he just starts kind of digging his claws into like, becoming part of the culture and like learning more about them and doing their things and whatever. And he's not doing it from like, I need to study. It's more of like, I'm bored and I want to see what these people are doing. And yeah, like a big part in the story though, like the flip switching though, like kind of the finality of him going full like full native, full on Katsumoto's side, is that one night they're doing this like performance where like all the whole village gets around and they're watching this theater performance, and there's these assassin ninjas that are so fucking badass, and they've come into Katsumoto's town, and they're all fucking, they got like tiny ninja swords, and they're throwing like ninja stars, and they got like the Wolverine claws and shit, and they're fucking shit up. And you see Algarin, and he's watching the theater play go on, right? And he's looking up, at the roof, and he sees these guys, and he knows exactly what the fuck's going on. He knows that these are assassin like guys coming to kill Katsumoto, and he could have let it, like if he really wanted to get out of there, he would have just been like, yeah, like fuck these guys, like like get me out, and maybe he might, probably the ninjas would have killed him regardless, but maybe the ninjas would have known to let him go or something, right? But either way, like he's like so invested now in that town, not necessarily on Katsumoto's side, but he's invested in the town. He likes those people. He wants them to survive. They haven't done anything to him, and so he yells like, Katsumoto, look out, and then like he basically saves Katsumoto from getting killed, which would have, like, if he was still wanting to get out of there, he would have like he would have like just let them kill Katsumoto, right? And then both him and Katsumoto get attacked in this house and it's basically them versus a bunch of ninjas, and you see Algarin, and he has to defend like the woman, the Katsumoto's sister and her kids, which he's become more close with over the whole time that he's been in Japan or whatever, right? And or the whole time that he's been in that village, right? And so but he sees those ninjas attack the kid, and he's just like, fuck, like this isn't my kid, but he is my kid, fuck you, you don't touch my kid, god damn it. And he fucking just murders those ninjas right in front of the kid, and then he just starts fighting with Katsumoto together and killing all these ninjas. And you see that like all of his sword training has really paid off, and I love it because the fighting scene is like Katsumoto has killed a lot of the ninjas, but he's still outnumbered like 2-3 or like 3-1 or 2-1, and he's like, oh fuck, like I'm tired, like shit, like I only have one sword. And then Algarin comes in there and he's like, I got you, bro, and just like and then he just starts fighting all the ninjas and stuff, and it is really cool, it's fucking badass. And then I guess to summarize the last part of the fucking movie, it's just like Algarin and Katsumoto go back to Tokyo because Katsumoto gets summoned by the Emperor, and Okamura's still a bitch ass who's controlling the Emperor, and so that he's like, you gotta kill Katsumoto, blah, and the Emperor's like, I guess I gotta kill Katsumoto, and he's just being a passive little bitch and not doing anything to affect his world, kind of thing, right? And anyway, Tom Cruise is like, fuck this shit, like he was like, he starts drinking again, and he's like about to go back to America, and then he's like, you know what, fuck this, like if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die because I'm fighting for a cause, and fighting with the guy who basically got me sober and made me love life again. And so he goes and he saves Katsumoto, and he's like, let's fuck this shit up. And then they go and they go back to the village, they get all their boys together, and then they go and they have this epic showdown at the end of the movie where it's just them versus all the westernized soldiers, and all the samurai die except for Algarin. And then Algarin recovers and he goes and sees the Emperor, and he's basically like, Emperor Okamura is a punk ass bitch, Katsumoto is a real motherfucker, I'm gonna tell. And he's like, tell me how he died. And because Katsumoto was the Emperor's like one of his mentors, one of his teachers, like the most respected teacher. But Katsumoto never tried to manipulate him like Okamura did. He was just like, you are a big boy, you need to figure out what's important to you, and you got to make a decision. And the Emperor's just been like, you got to just tell me what to do. And he's just had like fucking Palpatine Okamura telling him what to do this whole time. And basically Tom Cruise goes in there and he's just like, he continues on what Katsumoto was doing, and he's like, if you consider me your enemy, you can order me and I will take my life right now. And Tom Cruise like basically repeats the line that Katsumoto did, showing that he has succeeded Okamura. He's going to continue on his teachings. And then the movie ends with Tom Cruise going back to the village and taking the Japanese Katsumoto's sister to Slamtown. He's gonna Space Jam that shit. And the movie ends, and then Hans Zimmerman cue, boom, finish. And Yeah, that's pretty much the plot of Last Samurai. But it's good, right? It's really fucking good. And I don't know, there's just, again, like, there's so much perfection in this movie. The cinematography, the way they shoot it, the acting, the pacing, the music, the soundtrack, just the color editing too, like the places, like it's so funny that, like, this is a movie made by Westerners about Japan. This isn't a Japanese movie for Japanese people, if that makes sense. Like, this isn't, like, it's hard to tell a fish what water is like when he's been in water his whole life, right? I think it's the same thing for Japanese people. Japanese people growing up in Japan have a way different perspective about Japan compared to Westerners that like Japan, or that are into Japan, because they get to see mostly all the good things that happen versus the bad things, right? And like, Japanese people, I think for the most part, they're very apathetic about, like, modern Japan, modern Japanese society and politics and whatever, right? But from a Westerner's perspective, it's like, wow, like, Japan, you've got such beautiful nature and harmony and a way of life and all this stuff, etc., right? And that's the best thing about The Last Samurai, is that it's a Japanese, it's a movie about Japan that is for Westerners and Japanese people. Like, one of the comments I read before starting this was, I don't know it verbatim, but basically it was written in Japanese, and the guy was saying, like, this movie was made over 20 years ago by like, like, Americans, but it's the most prideful Japanese movie ever. And, like, as Japan keeps changing, we should never forget that, like, Japan had a culture. Japan has this strong history, and, like, we can't forget that, and we can't not like that, and we must acknowledge it, kind of thing, right? And I really like that. It's good. But anyway, I just I like the fact that it's that Japanese people, because there's some Japanese people I was reading on the Wikipedia that had a problem with it, like Japanese historians, right? Like, there were some people that were like, because the movie's based on real events, but it doesn't say it, right? Like, it's just a story that's history with, like, a big spicy touch of fiction, right? But again, it's not about, like, we watch movies as escapism, right? Like, we watch movies to forget about real life, right? So when you're making a movie based on history, and remember, isn't it always funny how, like, always the good guys win when it comes to historic battles, right? It's always the good guys that win. So it's not like they had Wikipedia or something 200-300 years ago, right? So all we have to go off of is the narrative of the people that wrote the books and whether it's correct or not. And I'm not, what is it? It's like, I'm not saying that, like, the earth is flat or something, nothing like that, but I'm just saying, like, for historical data, all we have to go off of is what people wrote, and we have to hope that they were telling the truth, right? And so, but yeah, historians had a problem with it because they were like, yeah, this is based on the Saigo Rebellion or something, and it was really small, and, like, the samurai weren't angry because their way of life was going away. The samurai were angry because they were a class of people in the caste system in Japan, and when they stopped propping up the samurai, then all those guys lost their status and their money, and that's what pissed them off, and that's what started the rebellion. And it's like, yeah, that might be true. I mean, that's probably true, but it's just like, that doesn't matter. It's not about the story, The story is what's most important about this shit, right? And I don't know, I really fucking like that. It's just cool. And here, let me get some coffee. Let me hydrate. But to me, the movie is, again, like, it's not just about the production value. It's also the story. The story is the most important thing. It's like, because there's two parts, right? There's the story and then how you implement the story, right? I always like to reference Dragon Ball GT. It's like Dragon Ball GT had a lot of cool ideas for a story, but its implementation of the story was shitty. It was so fucking lame. It wasn't good, you know. Like the ideas that like the Bebe saga went on way too long, and the saga where like all hell breaks loose on Earth, like that was way too short, right? But it's like, yeah, like Dragon Ball GT had like all these great ideas for like story arcs, but they implemented them so badly that it made the series unwatchable, and it just felt like a waste of time. And kind of like Dragon Ball Daima. Goku went to a bar, he ate a hamburger, and he's fighting bad guys. Like, oh, shut up. Ugh. God damn it. I want to see Gotenks. I want to see more teenage Gotenks, and I want to see Tien Shenhan again. But, yeah, in The Last Samurai, it's not just the story. It's, like, the way they tell the story. And, again, like, there's a difference between telling a story and, like, feeling a story, right? It's like that old Bruce Lee quote where it's like, don't think, feel, right? And yeah, I don't know, it's so funny because it's like there's so many elements of Japanese, I don't know what we call it, society, like Japanese, just like Japan, like for example, like in the movie, even though I know it's hundreds of years ago where this takes place, so obviously it's gonna look different. It's not gonna look modernized like today, but like just the fact that it's like everything's made out of wood, you know, like everything is kind of back to nature, right? Like in Japanese, oh, I forgot what the fuck what they say in Japanese, but there's a saying in Japanese that it's called like nature showering, and it's like basically it's for people in the city that when you're around concrete and all this shit for too long, you need to constantly make an effort to go out to like big parks or something, or just surround yourself by nature again and take that in if you want like a healthy mindset, like a, you know, a healthy spirit or whatever. And like when you watch this movie too, it's like there's so much nature. All the buildings are made out of wood, but it's not half-assed. It's like all just very pristine. And like even when you go and you check out like the westernized the westernized parts of like Okamura's office and stuff, you see like everything's just wood and brass metal or something, and like, you know, there's big giant oil paintings and stuff. Not an LCD screen in sight, you know. It's I don't know, it feels so classy, so nice. But anyway, there's other things I'd like to talk about with this movie, but I think I'm just gonna read to you guys the comments that I really liked here, and yeah, I'll let you guys listen to these, and then maybe if I have some other stuff, I'll chime in. So and here we go. This is from a guy. He says, the reason this is a particularly powerful scene is because of the Japanese ideal behind getting back up after being struck down. Okay, so this is talking about the scene where Algarin fights Oji with the wooden sword when he is in the village, and Oji the samurai is like, dude, like that's not a toy, and you're a stupid foreigner. And then like he keeps beating up Tom Cruise, but Tom Cruise keeps getting back up, and it's like, what the fuck? You should have just put the sword down. And Tom Cruise is showing him that he's like, I'm a warrior too. You will respect me, and all this shit. But anyway, it was a trait that was taught to the children that was thought to only be present in their culture. Seeing other foreign people outside Japanese influence who often stayed down after being struck. The Japanese proverb behind the teaching goes, Nanakorobi Yaoki, which means 7 times down, 8 times up. Nathan's character does this, which is why everyone around him is mildly shocked to see a foreigner displaying as much resilience. The scene, I imagine, is specifically aimed at the Japanese audiences watching the movie. You know just how important this is to indicate how Nathan is a different kind of man, a man like them. Ooh, nice. Here's another comment. Every time I listen to this, I think back to my, what is it? I don't know what scene this was for. Every time I listen to this, I come back to myself, to the silence inside of me, to my resilience, to the deepest parts of myself. It's beautiful. It reminds me that I am here despite the heaviness of the world. I will always have me. I really love this composition. It's beautiful. Okay, I think this is yeah, that was a comment on the soundtrack for the movie. And here's another one. Ron Franz, I'm going to miss you when you go. Christopher McCandless, I will miss you too. But you are wrong if you think that the joy of life comes principally from the joy of human relationships. Oh yeah, this is a quote from Into the Wild. Yeah, I don't know why I put that there. That was a good quote though, but let's keep going. I love how this scene. Okay, this is like the scene where again, like where the guy's beating Tom Cruise up with a wooden sword. I love how in the scene Ujio starts off calm, and the more so he tries to disarm Nathan and strikes him in the chest with the Kashida pommel of the sword and waits, and then strikes Nathan's sword in reaction to his attack rather than striking his wrist or his body straight away. He knocks his sword away and walks away. Nathan gets up again, and yet Ujio keeps relatively calm and collected. Again, he knocks Nathan down and knocks away the sword and walks away. Nathan won't give up, which angers Ujio and makes him lose his composure. Instead of giving up willingly, Nathan keeps fighting until he physically can't anymore. And although this frustrates Ujio, I think this ultimately earns his respect and admiration. Despite this film being romanticized and not super historically accurate, I think the choreography, the soundtrack, the story, and the line delivery was all amazing and told a compelling story. Nathan, a broken man who is not afraid of death but even wishes for it, yet fights tooth and nail till the end for what he cares for. The film was contrasting ideas as a huge theme, life and death, differing views on the meaning of honor, the new versus the old, tradition versus modernization. Nathan is the bridge between the rift. God, my fucking clogged nose. The warrior is whom the old ways have joined. What is it? The warrior in whom the old ways have joined the new. Oh yeah, that was on the sword that Katsumoto gives Nathan. And I think the film demonstrated this amazingly. I hope we have a 4K Blu-ray version of this film in the future. Okay, yeah, since a lot of movies are being remastered. Hell yeah. I'm gonna blow my nose. Hold on. Okay. Blew my nose. Now it's time to keep going. Okay, let's keep going with these comments. Although he got his arse kicked, in this moment he earned the respect. A person who does not give up despite facing a superior opponent is a person to be reckoned with. Despite the huge chasm in cultures, they could see he is an indomitable spirit and heart. A beautiful, moving scene. Yep. Let's see. I like it. There's another one. The woman who was watching had her husband killed by Algarin. However, when she saw how resilient and honorable he was, she at least knew her husband died at the hands of a great warrior, keeping their family honor intact. Yeah, that's. I guess that's one thing to think about it. I love it. This is another comment. It says, I love how this scene shows the difference between the two cultures. The samurai devote their lives to the perfection of whatever they pursue, and they move with the grace and power. However, they accept when they have been bested humbly and with respect. Algarin sees defeat as an invitation to try again, coming back harder and faster than before. He blunders and fails constantly, but he doesn't care about winning. He shows his strength and willingness to come back for more. It's a concept unfamiliar that even offensive to his opponent, who lashes out at him in anger. Algarin later on encourages Katsumoto to adopt the same mentality when fighting the Japanese army after having lost so much. Katsumoto in turn teaches Algarin throughout the film how to find peace in life and regain his honor. The film does a brilliant job of showing both cultures learning from each other and eventually working towards a common goal. Or Nathan could be running headlong into danger because he's borderline suicidal at this point. Either one works. Oh, it's good. Yeah, yeah. I like that too. This is like another thing I really loved about, like, again, like this movie is kind of like a culmination. Like this is like a couple of years before I came to Japan that this movie came out, right? And it's just like, it's funny. Like when I was a kid, America was really capitalizing on the whole karate and martial arts, craze that was happening. Everybody's watching like Steven Seagal and Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, and even the kids like me, like we had Power Rangers. Like I was one of those kids that like for my age group, I was lucky enough that like when Power Rangers became a thing, I jumped on that, you know? Like Power Rangers is like, oh yeah, like hey, it's like the first it's so crazy when I think about it. Like how lucky I was to be in that age group, that specific age group that when Power Rangers first came out, like it was marketed to kids like me. All the kids after that, they got the you know, the sequel seasons of Power Rangers, but I got the first season of Power Rangers and the first season of Pokemon and like, you know, the first season of like Toonami and Adult Swim and shit, right? And it's like, you know, Japanese people ask me why did I come to Japan and stuff, and it's like I like it how the movie shows you that there is a destiny, kind of like there's the destiny that is pushed upon you, and then there's the destiny that you choose to accept, right? And for me, it's God. Like I've almost spent. Oh my God. Oh wow. I haven't even thought about it like that. I've almost spent like more than half of, or almost half of my life in Japan. Like that's crazy when I think about that. Like yeah, damn. I have not. Like I mean, I always feel like I'm still attached to America because I still watch American TV and movies and stuff, but I don't live in America, you know? God damn. And that's just I feel like when I was younger, like it's not that it was forced upon me and I didn't like it. It's just that like I've always had Japan in the background of my life, whether it was like the Japanese kids who moved to my school when I was in elementary school, or like you know, getting into Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball or Power Rangers, whatever, right? But it's just like when I became an adult, like I knew that it's just like I gotta go to Japan. I gotta go there, and it's just like movies like Lost in Translation and The Last Samurai. It really just kind of solidified those feelings of like, yep, I need to go do this. Like this is like I need to go see this for myself. I need to stop just like what do you call it? Not fantasizing. What is it, like putting it on a pedestal? I'm romanticizing. I gotta stop romanticizing Japan. I gotta go and experience it and make my own Japan stories, you know? And but it's great. I mean, I think of all the people that watch The Last Samurai and then and like they don't live in Japan. Maybe they visited for holiday or something. But I wonder how many people that moved to Japan and like have kind of permanently settled here like me. I wonder how many of them have like they'll watch The Last Samurai and feel the way I do, you know? Like there's some people I've met, like it's not a lot, but I've met a handful of people that are just like, I really love Japan. I'm still in Japan after all this time and I love the shit out of it, and I love like partaking in Japanese culture and stuff. But it's like when I see movies like The Last Samurai, even though it was made to kind of romanticize Japan, there's a lot of movies that romanticize Japan. This is another reason why I haven't watched the new Shogun series, because I don't like seeing Japan as like just some marketable thing, right? It's kind of like what turns me off about all the like the gay marketing and stuff back home in America. It's like, hey man, we're like, you know, we're Target or something, or we're you know, we're Mercedes and we love gay people. Okay, are you gonna put that in the showcase room for the Mercedes in the Saudi Arabia? Oh no, they hate gay people. We want their money. I'm like, oh, so you don't really care about gay people. If you stood with gay people, you would have that everywhere in the world, but you just want to make money. You fucking poser piece of shit. Like, you don't give a fuck about any of this. You're just trying to milk like that like that's the wrong kind of cultural appropriation, right? Where they're just milking it. But with The Last Samurai, like I don't feel like that at all, you know? And like that's the great thing too. It's like normie people don't really care. Like it's such a good story. It's told so well with such heart and passion that like even if it's historically inaccurate, people like normal people won't give a shit, right? Because they're focusing on the moral of the story and just the experience, right? And like all the little haters are gonna be like, yeah, but no, man. Like I always found the argument funny how they're like, oh, so the white guy is the last samurai, and it's like, no, the last samurai was Katsumoto, and he taught all the things about what was important about Japanese life and samurai from his perspective to Algarin, this guy that was an outsider, you know. And like the Algarin doesn't become the last samurai. He was only a samurai for like a year or something, right? Like he's embedded so much of Katsumoto's will and feeling and philosophy, but he's, you know, he's still kind of a tourist, but he's like, he, you know, Katsumoto helped turn him into the guy that he was destined to become. And I don't know, I think that's it's so funny when you think about it, how it's just like, this is a movie from 20 years ago, but I still feel like so many emotions, and I feel like so much nostalgia watching this again. And it's so weird, like I feel like like I was talking to my friend who's like 60 years old. He's like way older than me, or not that older, but he's older than me. And he was like saying on Facebook Messenger, he's like, dude, I fucked this 60-year-old chick last week. And like it's like the guy has never, like, maybe he matured, but he's still like the same 20-year-old dude that he was, like, no matter how old he is. And he's like, I fucked this 60-year-old chick last week. Isn't that weird, man? She's like 60. And I was like, but you're 60. But you're 60. And he's like, yeah, but she was like old, you know. And like, you're 60. Shouldn't you be fucking 60-year-olds anyway? And it's funny, like I watched this movie and it makes me forget that like Tom Cruise and Katsumoto have aged and everything. And it's just this movie's like a greater reminder that it's like, you, like, everything has some kind of predictability when it comes to life, you know. Like, even though movies have only been around for like less than 100 years, there's stories, you know. There's always like iterations. There's always going to be really good famous stories, and then there's going to be shitty small stories that people forget, kind of thing, right? And same thing, it's like there's always going to be cringe people in the public eye being weird, and then there's going to be like honorable people that inspire people to do better and shit, right? And it's one of those things, right, where it's like the only thing that never changes is change, right? But at the same time, it's always still kind of is that quote from like True Detective, like time is a flat circle, right? Like even if it's kind of like the philosophy of like JoJo season 6 ending, where like the whole universe changes and it's an alternate universe, but there's still like similar characters, like they're still them, it's just a different iteration of them. And it makes me think, it's like you know, there's always going to be something that you can, I guess, what am I trying to say? There's always going to be something that you can be like, oh, this is fake and gay and lame, and it makes you apathetic in life. But then there's things that really inspire you and make you feel like stuff that you haven't felt in a long time, that really inspires you to go out and, like, you know, do better and embrace life, even though if you think life is fake and gay and it's all just the same shit that keeps going on repeat over and over again. Like, at least you find a reason for you to make the best out of whatever time you've got here, you know? And I love how this movie is a reminder of that. Like, there's like a million other things I want to say about this movie, but it's like the rant's coming to an end here, and I'm like overall, it's just, there's not. It's like that scene in Pig with Nicolas Cage, right, where he's trying to talk to his disillusioned past like chef and an intern, right, who started up this successful restaurant, but he's become just not jaded, but he's embraced the whole fakeness and gay thing. And you know, Nicolas Cage is like, all these people critiquing your restaurant, none of them matter. You could be gone next week and they won't care about you. Like, you know, they'll forget about you. Like, they don't matter. And then he, like, grabs the guy. I think he grabs his arm or something. I don't know. But he, like, looks him deep in the eyes, and he's like, we only get a few things in life to care about. And it's just like, yeah, man, like, this is a great reminder. Like, to me, this movie is a whole great reminder of, like, we only have a few good things to care about in our life. And, you know, like, life, it's like they always say youth is wasted on the young. was like life gets wasted on, you know, like people get into these like bad patterns of behavior, these bad circles of bad behavior patterns or whatever, and it's like, but luckily for me at least, you have movies like The Last Samurai which help you break out of that and make you think about what you've been doing recently and how you need to be better, and like it kind of like wakes you up from autopilot. And I love this movie. I cannot emphasize how much I fucking love this movie. And I don't know, some people will probably watch this movie and not feel the same way I did, and that's all right, you know, but I hope that they found something that makes them feel the way that this movie makes me feel. And I'm so grateful that I have this movie as like a reminder to look back on whenever I'm kind of lost in life or I'm feeling down. And I'm really happy that I just, you know, that I had that reminder recently. So anyway, yeah, guys, that's my Last Samurai rant. I feel like I could have done better with this, but I mean, this is a great thing about the internet. If this one wasn't that good, I can always make a part 2. But anyway, yeah, what did you guys think about this? Let me know in the comments down below. And, you know, smash like button, do all that stuff. And, yeah. Secret comment of the day, just Tom Cruise fucks. I don't know. Write that down. But anyway, yeah, guys, I'll see you on the live stream. You take it easy. Old Scottish Sama Deshta. Yeah, buddy.